Imagine pouring every sleepless night, every insane idea, every damn piece of yourself into something. And then, one day, you see someone else standing under the spotlight, smiling, shaking hands, and taking the credit for it. My name's not on that check. My face isn't in those photos. But the thing they're celebrating, that's my blood, my sweat, and my effing idea. The night I realized my friend was taking notes for all the wrong reasons. Seattle's rain has this way of making everything feel slower. Not in a bad way, just in that life's on pause kind of way. It was one of those Tuesday nights where the office was half empty, the hum of old computers blending with the tapping of my keyboard. I was deep in code, eyes dry, coffee cold, brain hanging by a thread when I stumbled on something. Not just, oh cool, this might work kind of something. No, this was it. The kind of idea that slaps you across the face and whispers, "Congratulations, idiot, you just solved a problem millions didn't even know they had." It was a payment algorithm. Stupidly simple, insanely efficient, and for small businesses, a effing goldmine. I sat back, staring at the screen like I'd just found buried treasure. I even laughed, half from excitement, half from sheer disbelief. And then, like clockwork, I heard his voice. "Still here, huh?" Derek leaned against the doorway with that stupid grin of his, holding his third Diet Coke of the night. He wasn't just my co-worker. We'd been friends for years. The kind of friends who could talk about anything, exes, politics, the best burger in town without holding back. I spun my chair around. You ever have one of those moments where you just know you're onto something? His eyebrows shot up. Uh-oh. Harper's having a light bulb moment. Should I grab a fire extinguisher? I smirked, shaking my head. Nah, man. This could actually be huge. Derek walked in, plopped down in the chair across from me, and leaned forward like I'd just told him I had alien footage on my phone. Alright, spill. And like an absolute idiot, I did. I showed him the prototype, explained the logic. Hell, I even drew diagrams on the whiteboard. He kept nodding, asking questions, leaning in closer. At the time, I thought, wow, he's really into this. Now, I realized he was memorizing every damn detail. Dude, this is actually brilliant, he said, tapping the whiteboard. Like, you could get real funding for this. Ever thought about pitching it? I laughed. Yeah, but I'm not even close to ready. Needs more testing, more, that's what I'm here for. He cut in. We could work on this together. Split everything 50-50. No contracts, no drama, just us. I swear, in that moment, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Of course we'd work on it together. We'd pulled all-nighters side by side before, survived the hell of debugging some intern's disaster code. Why wouldn't I trust him? We stayed until almost midnight that night, throwing ideas back and forth. I was hyped, he was hyped, but when we finally packed up, I noticed something small. As we were heading out, Derek lagged behind. I thought he was just grabbing his jacket, but then I saw him, phone in hand, snapping a quick picture of the whiteboard. I didn't say anything. I told myself, he's just saving notes so we don't forget, but something in my gut twisted. Looking back now, that was the first red flag. Now imagine what happens next. But before that, smash that like button and hit subscribe, cause the craziest part is just getting started. We were partners, or so I thought. By Thursday, it felt like the idea had grown legs and was running laps without me. Derek was in my office more than his own. He'd show up with coffee, not my usual burnt Starbucks, but the fancy overpriced hipster kind from the caf to blocks over. It was nice, sure, but it also felt strategic, like he was keeping me fueled up so I'd keep talking. And talk I did. I mean, this was my baby. Every new test I ran, every tweak in the algorithm, I wanted to share it. Derek was quick to throw in suggestions, some of which were actually decent. Others were clearly just him trying to understand why I'd done things the way I did. Listen, he said one afternoon, leaning over my desk, I think we should get ahead of this. Build a pitch deck now, so when you're ready to go for funding, it's just plug and play. It sounded logical. Hell, it sounded smart. And when someone's nodding along to your every word, it's easy to think you're in sync. So, we stayed late that night. Again, I handled the tech slides, flowcharts, code logic, user benefits. He handled market research and potential revenue streams. At least, that's what he called it. We laughed a lot that night. About dumb LinkedIn posts, about our boss's obsession with motivational quotes, about the time we almost got fired for roasting a client's UI design. It felt like old times until I noticed he'd saved a copy of the pitch deck to his personal Google Drive. I'll keep a backup just in case, he said casually when I asked. You never know with these shared drives, man. One glitch and poof, it made sense. But the twist in my gut was back. The following Monday, Derek walked in wearing a blazer. Not his usual wrinkled hoodie, a blazer. Dude, what's with the Wall Street cosplay? I joked. He smirked. Just a meeting. Thought I'd look professional. I didn't push. People have meetings. Whatever. But then he started missing more time in the office. Short messages on Slack, working from home today, client call, catching up on market stuff. Meanwhile, I was buried in code, trying to make the thing bulletproof. One evening, I texted him, need you to check slide 12 numbers look off. No reply. A day later, I got, oh, yeah, I'll look. Been swamped. It was weird, but still not enough to scream betrayal. The real kicker came on Friday. We were grabbing drinks after work, and Derek was unusually quiet. I asked if everything was okay. He nodded, took a long sip of his beer, and said, Harper, you ever think maybe we're sitting on something way too big for just us? I laughed. That's the point, man. We go big or go home. He smiled, not his usual goofy grin, but this tight, calculating one. Yeah, exactly. It didn't mean much to me then. But now, looking back, that was the moment he'd already decided how this was going to play out. And spoiler, it wasn't going to end with both of us shaking hands on stage. 2 weeks later, I found out where he'd been disappearing to, and it hit me like a punch to the ribs. 2 weeks later, it all clicked. And not in a good way. It was a Tuesday morning, cloudy in cold Seattle, doing its usual impression of a wet cardboard box. I was at my desk, half reading emails, half wishing the coffee machine would brew faster, when a Slack notification popped up. It was from Jenna, one of our mutual friends from the industry. Hey, Harper, did you know Derek's speaking at the Cascadia Tech Summit today? Looks like your project. My stomach dropped so fast it felt like the floor had disappeared. I clicked the link she sent, and there was the glossy promo banner for the summit. Derek Miller, CEO and founder, Payson Technologies, revolutionizing small business payments. The photo showed him in that same damn blazer, smiling like he'd just cured cancer. I stared at the screen, reading the tagline over and over. My hands went cold. This wasn't kind of similar, this was my algorithm, my idea, my late nights and whiteboard scribbles, dressed up in a shiny new name. At first, I told myself there had to be a mistake. Maybe he was there talking about something else. Maybe Payson was some unrelated side hustle. But deep down, I knew. I pulled up our old shared pitch deck. Slide after slide matched the wording from the event page almost exactly. He hadn't even bothered to rewrite half of it. The anger came fast. Like, smash your laptop fast. I called him, no answer. Texted, we need to talk. Now. 10 minutes later, delivered. Read. No reply. By lunch, I couldn't sit still. I grabbed my jacket and walked the 6 blocks to the convention center. I wasn't invited, but I knew enough about these events to slip in without much trouble. Inside, the place was buzzing, banners, booths, people into tight suits pretending they loved networking. I spotted the main stage sign and headed that way. And then, I saw him. Derek was standing backstage, chatting with some slick-looking investors. He had the pitch deck loaded on a giant screen behind him. My pitch deck. The diagrams, the flowcharts, even the cheesy little smiling shop owner stock photo I'd picked at AM one night. I froze. My brain was yelling, go up there and call him out right now. My legs didn't move. They called his name, and he walked out like he owned the damn world. The spotlight hit him, the applause swelled, and I swear for a moment, I felt dizzy, like I was watching my own funeral. He launched into the pitch. My pitch. Word for word, with the same pauses and inflections we'd practiced together, except now it was his. And the audience, eating it up. Nods, smiles, some guy in the front row scribbling notes like he'd just witnessed the second coming of Steve Jobs. I wanted to scream. Instead, I pulled out my phone and started recording. If nothing else, I was going to have proof. Halfway through, he dropped the bomb. Thanks to early investor interest, Payson Technologies has already secured $500,000 in seed funding. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. $500,000. My idea, my work, his name on the check. When the talk ended, I waited near the side exit. He spotted me, and his smile faltered for just a split second before snapping back into place. Harper, man, what a surprise, he said, as if we'd just run into each other at the grocery store. What the hell was that? My voice was low, shaking. Look, I can explain. No, you can't. You stole it. Every single thing up there was mine. He glanced around, lowering his voice. We both worked on it. You can't patent an idea, man. It's whoever runs with it first. And I ran. That sentence. It burned into my brain. I ran. I stepped closer. You ran with my life's work, Derek. You didn't just take an idea. You took me out of the picture entirely. He shrugged, like we were arguing over who called shotgun in the car. You were moving too slow. Investors don't wait. I stared at him, wondering if this was some kind of prank. It wasn't. And that's when I realized this wasn't a friend. This was a shark I'd been stupid enough to feed. I walked away before I did something I'd regret. But as I left the building, one thought kept looping in my head: this isn't over. That night, I made a decision. If Derek wanted a war, I'd give him one. But first, I was going to need ammo. That night, I didn't sleep. Not even a little. I lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying Derek's words in my head: whoever runs with it first. And I ran, over and over, like a broken record, each time making my stomach twist tighter. By sunrise, I'd already decided if Derek wanted a war, he'd get one. But I wasn't about to go in swinging without a plan. Wars aren't won by throwing punches, they're won by choking the other guy's air supply without him realizing it until it's too late. First step was to see if I even had a legal leg to stand on. I called a buddy of mine, Chris, who's a lawyer. We met for coffee in a quiet corner of a diner, the kind where the coffee's terrible but the waitresses don't judge you for cursing before 9 a.m. Chris listened as I spilled the whole story, from the night I found the algorithm to the conference fiasco. He didn't interrupt, just kept scribbling in his little leather notebook. When I finished, he leaned back and sighed. Bad news. Legally, you're screwed. Unless you had a signed agreement or filed for a patent before he ran off, you've got nothing solid. Even then, it's a gray area. So, what? He just gets away with it? I snapped. Chris shrugged. Happens more than you think. Tech is the Wild West. Whoever gets to market first usually wins. Best I can do is help you file a cease and desist. But he'll laugh it off unless you've got real leverage. Real leverage. The phrase stuck in my head. That night, I pulled up everything Derek and I had worked on. Old Slack messages, emails, the pitch deck metadata, screenshots of our whiteboard sessions. I wasn't sure it would hold up in court, but I sure as hell could use it elsewhere. The more I dug, the more I started noticing gaps, holes in his shiny presentation, things he'd glossed over at the summit because he didn't understand the deeper technical parts. And those holes, they were big enough to drive a truck through. An idea started to form. What if, instead of suing him, I made him crash publicly? If I could expose him as someone who didn't actually know his own product, investors would scatter like cockroaches. Problem was, I'd have to get close enough to plant the right kind of doubt without him realizing I was behind it. So I called Jenna, the same friend who'd tipped me off about the summit. She works in PR, knows everyone in Seattle's startup scene. When I told her I needed in into Derek's next big appearance, she didn't even hesitate. There's a fintech panel next month. He's listed as a guest speaker. I can get you in as press. Perfect. Over the next few weeks, I prepped like I was going to war. I learned exactly what parts of the tech Derek didn't understand. I crafted questions that looked harmless on the surface, but were landmines underneath. The kind that, if you answered wrong in front of a room full of VCs, could kill a company overnight. But I didn't stop there. I also built a stripped-down version of my original algorithm, faster, cleaner, and with a few flashy features Derek hadn't even dreamed of. Just enough to show potential investors there was a better option on the market. The night before the panel, I sat in my apartment, staring at the glowing lines of code on my screen. My chest felt tight. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about proving, to him and to myself, that I wasn't just some guy he could walk over. I closed my laptop and whispered to myself, tomorrow, we start. The panel didn't just go badly for Derek, it went nuclear. And I was the one holding the match. The fintech panel was held at this fancy co-working space in downtown Seattle, all exposed brick, Edison bulbs, and overpriced coffee that tasted like someone filtered it through a flannel shirt. I showed up early, press badge hanging from my neck, courtesy of Jenna's connections. The place was buzzing with investors, founders, and that particular breed of tech bros who wear sneakers that cost more than my rent. Derek was already there, working the room like he was running for office, shaking hands, laughing too loud, clapping people on the shoulder like they were lifelong pals. The sight of him made my jaw tighten, but I forced myself to smile and blend in. Today wasn't about emotion, it was about execution. The panel kicked off with the usual fluff. 3 other speakers, all talking about innovation, disruption, and other buzzwords that make VC salivate. Derek was last. Perfect. When his turn came, he strolled up like he owned the place. "Good morning, everyone," he said, flashing that politician's grin. The presentation behind him was slick my old designs, slightly rebranded, dressed up with a few meaningless infographics. I listened, biding my time, until the moderator opened the floor for audience questions. My heart rate ticked up. This was it. I raised my hand. The moderator nodded. Yes, in the back. I stood, keeping my voice steady. "Hi, Liam Harper, independent developer. Derek, in your pitch you mentioned the payment reconciliation module runs in sub-second latency even with high concurrency. Could you walk us through how your architecture handles the scaling bottlenecks inherent in multi-threaded transaction queues without hitting race conditions?" You could feel the air shift. Derek blinked. "Well, we, use a distributed framework." That I tilted my head. "Which one?" "Because your slides reference a proprietary scheduler, but based on the load balancing numbers you gave, it's not consistent with any known implementation in that class." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. A couple of investors leaned forward. The moderator glanced at Derek, curious. Derek laughed a nervous, brittle sound. "Trade secrets, my friend, right?" I said, smiling. "It's just interesting, because the algorithm you're describing matches an open source model from 3 years ago that still suffers from deadlocks under certain conditions. But I'm sure you've patched that, right?" His jaw tightened. "We have our own proprietary fixes, of course," I said, sitting down. "Would love to see them sometime." The damage was done. I could see it in the investors' faces, the subtle shift from "this guy's a genius" to "wait, does he even know what he's selling?" But I wasn't finished. During the networking break, I moved through the room quietly, showing a few choice people my stripped-down version of the algorithm running live on my laptop, smooth as butter, faster than anything Derek had. I didn't tell them the whole story. I didn't have to. The demo spoke for itself. By the time the panel wrapped, Derek's smile had gone tight, and his answers even tighter. Investors who'd been circling him earlier now gave him polite nods before drifting away. He spotted me near the exit. "What the hell was that?" he hissed. "Just asking questions," I said. "Isn't that what panels are for? You think this is a game?" I stepped closer. "No, Derek, I think this is business. And you're about to find out the difference." I left before he could answer. Over the next week, the ripple spread. A few blog posts popped up questioning Payzen's tech. One VC pulled out. Another postponed their commitment. Then I got an email from a mid-sized fintech firm in San Francisco. They'd seen my demo. They wanted to talk about funding. I didn't say yes, not right away. I needed to think, because here's the thing, revenge feels good in the moment, but it's a dangerous meal. It makes you wonder if you're becoming the same kind of person you set out to destroy. The last time I saw Derek, he was at a coffee shop, alone, laptop open, looking smaller, like someone had let the air out of him. He glanced up, saw me, and for a split second, there was no anger, just this tired, almost human expression. We didn't speak. I walked out, wondering if that was victory, or just the end of something that had already been dead for a long time. And here's the part I still can't decide: if I take that San Francisco deal, am I building my dream, or am I just finishing what Derek started? What would you do? Walk away clean, or take the crown? In the days after the panel, I didn't have to do much. The cracks were already spreading. It started with a single tweet from a well-known tech blogger, interesting claims from Payzen at yesterday's fintech panel. But can they back them up? It got maybe a dozen likes, but in startup world, that's enough to plant seeds of doubt. Then came the LinkedIn posts. Soft, professional language that still carried a punch. "We're excited to see innovation in this space, but due diligence is essential." Translation: "We're not touching this until we know it's legit." By Friday, I'd heard through Jenna that one of Derek's biggest potential backers had decided to explore other opportunities. She made it sound polite. I knew what it meant: they'd bailed. And yet, I didn't feel the rush I thought I would. Sure, it was satisfying to see him squirm, but there was an emptiness to it. Like eating junk food, good in the moment, but hollow after. One night, around midnight, I was still at my desk when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me swipe. "Harper?" The voice was low, tense. "Derek, what do you want?" I said. There was a pause. Then, "We need to talk." I laughed. "Pretty sure we burned that bridge. I'm serious. You're killing this deal, and if it goes under, it hurts both of us. Whether you like it or not, your name is tied to this thing." I let that hang in the air. "You tied my name to it when you stole it." Silence. "Then we could work something out. Make it official." You come on board as CTO. Equity split, I cut him off. You had your chance, Derek. And you showed me exactly what partnership means to you. He exhaled sharply. Then I guess we're done here. Guess so. I hung up. The next morning, I opened my inbox to find 3 new messages from investors who'd seen my demo through a mutual contact. The San Francisco firm was still interested. Another from New York wanted to fly me out. And that's when it hit me, Derek wasn't my problem anymore. My choice now was simple: keep focusing on tearing him down, or build something better and let that be the revenge. I closed the laptop, stared out the window at the gray Seattle sky, and for the first time in weeks, felt calm. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Not for him, and maybe not for me either. Because in this business, nothing ever stays buried, and sometimes, the person you thought you'd buried starts digging back. 3 weeks had passed since the panel, and Derek had gone quiet. No more smug LinkedIn posts, no press photos. It was almost like he'd vanished. I figured he was either licking his wounds or trying to rebuild in silence. Either way, I didn't care. My focus was on the new doors opening, meetings with potential backers, refining my demo, sketching out a real product roadmap. For the first time in months, my future felt like mine again. Then, one Tuesday morning, I woke up to an email that made my stomach drop. Subject: we need to talk, urgent. From Derek at Payson, Tech. Against my better judgment, I opened it. Harper, I know you don't trust me, and you probably have every reason not to. But something's happened, and you're the only one who can help me fix it. If you don't, this could destroy both of us. Meet me at PM tonight, Pike Place Market. Don't bring anyone. Derek, it felt like bait. Hell, it probably was bait, but curiosity is a hell of a drug. That night, the market was nearly empty, just the hum of streetlights and the smell of salt water drifting in from the pier. Derek was leaning against a pillar, hood up, hands jammed in his pockets. You came, he said. Make it worth my time. He glanced around, then pulled out a flash drive. Someone hacked Payson. They've got everything: client data, investor lists, your original code, and they're threatening to leak it unless we pay. I crossed my arms. Sounds like your problem. It's our problem, he said sharply. If they leak the original code with timestamps, everyone will know it came from you. You think investors will still want you then? They'll assume you were in on it from the start. I hated that he was right. Why tell me? I asked. Why not go to the cops? Because this isn't some random hacker. It's someone inside. Someone who knows exactly where to hit. And I think they're after you as much as me. My mind started spinning. Could it be Jenna? No, she'd never. Chris? He wouldn't know where to look. Then I realized there was a third option, one of the investors I'd shown my stripped-down demo to. Give me the drive, I said. He hesitated. We do this together, Harper. You help me fix it, and I make things right between us. I almost laughed. There is no us, Derek. But I took the drive anyway. Back home, I plugged it in. Encrypted files, ransom notes, a trail of IP addresses bouncing across half the globe. But one domain kept popping up, registered to a shell company in San Francisco, the same city as the firm that had been courting me. That's when it clicked. This wasn't just about revenge or sabotage. This was a play. Someone wanted to knock both of us out and scoop up the idea for themselves. At AM, I sat there staring at the screen, realizing I had a choice. I could burn Derek completely, let the leak happen, and take him down with me. Or I could work with him, patch the breach, and keep the wolves at bay for now. I closed the laptop without deciding. Because here's the thing, in this game, enemies have a funny way of becoming allies. And allies have an even funnier way of becoming enemies again. So tell me, if you were me, would you save the guy who stabbed you in the back, or let him drown?